friends, and welcome to another episode of the Woldenburn Podcast. My name is Emily, and I am coming to you today from Tennessee, where I live with my husband Micah and our beautiful little baby boy, who is currently napping, so hopefully I can get this podcast filmed and done before he wakes up. It is a lovely, very cold, sunny day. We've had another cold snap here. But the weather is all sorts of crazy because it was like 20 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, and it's supposed to get up into the mid-50s before the end of the day. And then a couple days from now, it's supposed to be in the 70s and then back down to the 40s or the 50s. It's spring. It's spring. That is what I had the realization. I was thinking about it. I was just like, man, this weather is so crazy. And then I realized, I was like, oh, well, of course it's crazy. This is spring weather. And I think for some reason I get it in my head that spring weather means, you know, lovely balmy temperatures all the time. But it doesn't. It's kind of the up and down that is the spring weather, kind of like fall, where it's those transition seasons where you have the nice beautiful days and then the cold days. Like, that's what it is. So, yeah. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. I have a few different things to share with you today. I have a finished object, I have a couple of projects. I'm hoping to get this on the shorter side. The last episode was quite long, and I realized that much of it was not even related to knitting or crafting at all. It was just kind of chatter, which isn't bad, but I don't love editing, and editing an hour-plus long video is a bit of a challenge for me. So my goal is to try and keep this on the shorter side. I think I would prefer to have my podcast episodes between the 30 to 45 minute mark at the most. Yeah, because it makes it easier to edit, and editing does take quite a bit of time. An hour-long video can take me 2 or 3 days to get it done because I have to do it in so many different pieces. Whereas with like a 30 or 45 minute video, a lot of times I can do it in like 1 or 2 spurts of editing. Anyway, also the heat just kicked on. Again, it is frigidly cold, so hopefully you can't hear that too much, but if you can, apologies. That was just the door shutting. I'd like to stay warm. Anyway, let's get on to the knitting. I have some knitting, I have some crocheting, and then I have a couple of books that I wanted to talk about today, and then that's about it. So, I have my basket. This is a basket crate thing that I got from Hobby Lobby last year. In there, if you keep an eye at Hobby Lobby, if you live in the US, they have this was in their spring collection, and I'm really excited because I know at some point here in the next month or so, they as they transition out, they will reduce all of their spring stuff. It'll be like 70% off. So this basket was originally $10, and I got it for like 3 or 4 or something. I can't remember exactly. And it has been amazing. I have loved having it for my projects because it's very easy to just carry it from one room to another. I don't have a ton of project bags, and so it has ended up, I've just ended up using this quite a bit. Before I get too distracted, I'm going to show you one of my works in progress because it's related to the finished object that I have. So we're kind of going out of order a little bit, but I realized that this just made it a little bit easier because there's a little bit of a story behind the finished object that I have, and it just makes it easier if I go ahead and talk about this work in progress. So last time I shared that I was knitting a Joyous baby cardigan, which I don't know precisely how to pronounce the designer's name, so I'll just have it on the screen. And it's right around. It's so hard to show because it has a very interesting construction. I haven't made any sort of a project like this before with this type of a construction, so it's definitely been really fascinating to knit. But I put it down to work on a different project, which I'll show you in a minute. But so I have made some project. I have finished the yoke increases, and I have actually finished one sleeve. And this the way that this design is constructed, it's a paid for pattern, so I don't want to give too much away, but it's specifically done where you knit the yoke, then you knit the sleeves, like the sleeves are done, and then you knit the rest of the body, which is, yeah, it's different, it's interesting. So I have finished one sleeve, and I need to pick up the stitches and do the other sleeve, and then I believe you seam the sleeves up and do some fancy magical knitting things and then knit the body. And I have been loving this. This is just so squidgy and soft. I love garter stitch so much. It's one of my favorite stitches, even though it's like the most basic knitting stitch that you can ever do. I love it because it's just so squishy and cozy. And I am knitting this out of the Berroco Vintage Baby, and it is in the colorway Pepper. And this is a beautiful yarn. It is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, 8% nylon, and it's machine washable, which is why I was picking it for this one. It does actually say that you can throw it in the dryer as well. Okay, I didn't realize that. I was thinking you had to put it, lay it flat to dry, but it says you can put it in the dryer. Okay. Anyway, so I was knitting away on this, having an absolutely lovely time, and it was a few weeks ago now, and I was sitting out on the back porch because we were having one of those beautiful like 70-degree days, and I was sitting out on the back porch with baby Tam asleep in the stroller and knitting away on it, and I was just getting so warm. I was in a sleeveless dress, and I was just getting toasty as all get out, and I had the realization that this is a very warm sort of a cardigan, and this was a gift knit. It's a gift knit for Micah's cousin. My husband's cousin just had a baby, and that was what I was knitting this for. And they live in Texas, and I realized that with as warm as it is here in Tennessee, it's probably that much warmer in Texas, and I don't think that they would get much wear out of this very squidgy, soft, warm cardigan. Because again, it's already springtime. This is a little baby. I'm specifically trying to make like a tiny size for when it's like a little newborn, because I know with Texas that they have like shorter cold seasons, so I didn't want to make something to try and make it fit for like next winter, just for now. So I switched gears and decided to knit the newborn vertebrae cardigan by, again, I don't know exactly how to pronounce the designer's last name, but it's Kelly something. I'll put it on the screen. And this is it. I didn't know about this pattern before I started making the Joyous Baby cardigan. If I had, I probably would have gone with this one from the get-go. I found out about it. I was watching some YouTube video, and I don't remember. It's not somebody I normally watch. It was just in my suggested on YouTube. And they were talking about like baby knit patterns, and they were talking about this pattern. And I had never heard of it before. So I pulled it up and looked at it, and I love the concept of this design. As you can see, it has hardly any front at all. It just has these very narrow pieces, and it's specifically designed to be conducive for like skin to skin. So when you've got the little newborn baby that you need to do all the skin to skin time, that lovely snuggly time, this is perfect because you can cover the back and the arms of the little baby but leave the chest free, and you can just kind of snuggle them onto your chest. Or it's also great because babies, especially baby Tam, he was probably the most spit-a-bee baby that I have ever encountered. Goodness. And it took him a long time to get over it. But that's the beauty of this, is that it's not covering the front, so it's not something they're going to be spitting up on constantly. So just the whole, it's so practical, and I absolutely love that about it. I'm definitely planning to make more for myself, for my future babies, and I realized that it would be really nice to have just a couple on hand as like gifts for people that have babies, because I think it's just such a wonderful idea. And this is the free version. There's the newborn vertebrae cardigan is the free version, and then there's like a baby child, and then like an adult, like woman's version, and those are paid for. But I I love just the little newborn size. And honestly, this is fairly big. It says that it's supposed to fit a 7 to 10 pound baby. I don't know if it was just my gauge was off or whatever. I didn't gauge swatch. I hardly ever gauge swatch. I don't really understand the whole concept of gauge swatching because I feel like when I've tried to do it, my swatch has lied to me anyway, so I usually just kind of go with it and then I'll measure, and half the time my gauge is right anyway. So I've been knitting long enough that I know enough that usually I'll go down a couple needle sizes, or if it's somebody that I've knit enough of their patterns and I realize that their gauge is just similar to mine, then I just follow the recommended patterns or recommended needles. So it's very possible that this turned out bigger than it was supposed to be. I haven't bothered with measuring the gauge because, again, babies grow really quickly, and if it's a little bit big, you can just roll up the arms and it's fine. So that's why I'm not too concerned about it being like a specific size, but I could see this fitting a baby for quite a while, not just the newborn stage. But yeah, I absolutely love this, and I was able to use some yarn from my stash. You might recognize this. This is the Berroco Vintage Sock, which is the same base. Let me see. Okay, so this one says lay flat to dry. Okay, so the Vintage Baby DK, it says you can throw it in the dryer. This one says lay flat to dry. So it's important to know because since I'm gifting this, I need to, which is interesting though, because it's the exact same base. Is it? Why would you need to lay one flat to dry and the other one it says you can put in the dryer? Huh. I don't know. Anyway. So this is knit out of the Berroco Vintage Sock in the Douglas Fir colorway. And I got this to make some socks for my husband, and I had 58 grams left over after I made him socks. And so I realized this was perfect. It's for a little boy baby. And so I just wanted to use something from my stash. I didn't want to have to go and buy more yarn. And I love it. So hopefully, this is also why I wanted to make sure I podcasted it today, because I actually need to get this shipped out today if possible, because the baby was born a few days ago, so I would like to be able to use it. So that's my finished object and one of my works in progress. So yeah, this is going to be on the shorter side because I only have one more knitting work in progress and then a crochet work in progress and then some yarn acquisitions. Yeah, and then books and then the end. So the next work in progress has been making me so happy. It's just one of the most enjoyable work in progresses that I've ever knit. But really, I was just about to say that my battery light was flashing when it went out and little man woke up, so that didn't take very long. Hopefully I can still get this edited, or not edited, filmed. Anyway, the project I was talking about is my festival sweater that I am knitting. It's a pattern by, oh goodness, this is much harder with the baby in your lap, by Petite Knit, and I put it aside for like a week and a bit to knit the baby vertebrae cardigan, and I just, the whole time it was all that I wanted to knit on. Like, that's all that I wanted to do. And so as soon as I was able to finish off the baby cardigan, I picked it back up and have been knitting on it like crazy. It is just, so again, this is going to be a little bit difficult with little man here. Don't fall off. I love this so much. The squishy double folded neckline, the yarn colors that I have, it just is so much fun. And it's kind of like a self-striping yarn in that I'll work on it, I'll be like, oh, I just want to get to the next bobble row. Just get to the next bobble row. I have already finished the yoke and I am working on the body. I think at some point here I'm going to stop and go ahead and pick up the stitches and start working on the sleeves a little bit, but I haven't decided yet. I might just go ahead and finish off the body. But yeah, I can't really do it full justice holding it up like this. But It has been such an enjoyable knit project. The main colorway is some of my hand-dyed yarn that I dyed. And it's just this beautiful, like, stormy navy gray color. And then the contrast color is this gorgeous and amazing yarn by Holly of the Mystery Mouse Knitting Podcast and Mystery Mouse Yarn Co. This is her Freudian Cogs colorway. And it's just this lovely variegated teals, aquas, speckles. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. And I think that the pairing of them together is absolutely perfect. It's washing out just a little bit when I hold it up here. It's a bit more saturated in real life, but that's pretty close. And I have just, yeah, you get the picture. I have been loving working on this so much. I'm going to try and put little man down on the ground here for a little bit, see if he'll be okay to play with some toys. We got him these foam alphabet block things, and he loves these. He was over at his grandparents' house, and they have some, and he would just sit there and chew on them and play with them and just have the best time. So maybe I can distract him. Hello! He's getting so big. He's probably crawling all the time, all over, getting into everything, and he has his first tooth, which was a shocker. It went from one day I was telling people, no teeth, nothing, to the next day, literally the next day. I was like checking his gums, and I was like, there's a full-on tooth in the child's mouth. Like, when did that happen? So, yes, I'm talking about you. He's just getting so big, and he's just the sweetest thing. I'm telling you, children, they can be exhausting sometimes with sleep deprivation and everything, but they're just the best. Anyway, here we go. I can show you a little bit better now. And I love this. This is the front, and then we've got the back. We've got these short rows here, which I think are going to make it fit so beautifully. I think I'm knitting the size large. I don't remember for sure, because basically I went through and I picked the size and I printed out my pattern, and then I just underlined all the numbers for that size. So I don't remember for sure. I'm pretty sure I did the size large. One of my goals this year is to try and be better about picking, I guess you could say, picking the right size for myself. A lot of times in the past when I've tried to knit garments, I've tried to pick stuff that's at 0 to negative ease, and I think that that's part of why I've disliked a lot of my like fingering weight sweaters, is because they're having to stretch so much over my bust and stuff that it makes the fabric really open and airy, and I don't like that. Like, I'll get gauge and it'll be the correct gauge, but it's just too open, and I think that that's why, is that I'm picking a size that's too small for the gauge of the pattern, and so then when it's stretching and whatnot, it's kind of open. Ugh. So I think that's why, and so I'm experimenting with my next few sweater projects to try and really pick something that's at or like an inch or two of positive ease, because I don't like patterns. I know specifically Petite Knit, she designs a lot of her patterns to have like 10 plus inches of positive ease, and it's a ton of positive ease. It's absolutely ridiculous. Well, it's not ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me because I don't like that amount of positive ease. Some people like it and they look really good with that amount of positive ease. With my body shape, no. It just looks oversized and weird. So I'm pretty sure I picked the large size with this. And I cannot wait to get it done. I love it so much. And I just started another bobble row. And honestly, the bobble rows are so much fun to do. And it's also fun because it's like a different color and you're like, ooh, this is different. But yes, highly recommend this pattern. I really want to knit another one. So we'll see if that happens. That's another thing that I want to try and do this year, is I want to re-knit knitting patterns. It's kind of a thing to just not re-knit knitting patterns, or not redo things. I know that there's, like, when it comes to like books, there's some people that are rereaders and some people that will never look at a book twice, or very rarely. I am very much a rereader. I love to read books over and over and over again that I've loved. Or it was sewing patterns. I love to make the same sewing pattern over and over. And for whatever reason, that I haven't been very good about translating that over to my knitting. And this is something I've been thinking about, and I'm not going to go too much into it because it's just thinking about things in my brain. But I've been thinking about it, and I was like, you know, it's really sad to have like this pattern that you paid money for and you only use it once, if that, or it just sits neglected and unloved in your Ravelry library. I've been feeling a little bit, I don't know that convicted is the right word, but bad about the fact that I have spent so much money on so many different knitting patterns and I've knit such a small percentage of them. This is something I've really been thinking about the last couple of days. But anyway, that's something that I want to work on. I want to A, knit patterns more than once, and B, stop buying patterns and just make the ones that I have and then buy patterns as I want to knit them. Anyway, those are the only like main knitting projects I have. I do technically have like some sock knitting projects, but I haven't really done much of anything on them. I've been devoting all of my time to either the baby vertebrae cardigan or my festival sweater, and I haven't like touched really any of the other ones. Now that I've finished the baby cardigan, I'll probably go back to working on the joyous baby cardigan because I would really like to get that done. I'm not mad about the fact that I decided not to gift it because I really, really like it. So it is now going to be mine to tuck away for future babies, which I am not mad about at all. But that's like all of the knitting projects. I did have a crochet project to share with you. And this was one of those ones that it's a long, long time languishing whip, which if you've watched for a while, you will know. And I randomly just had an itch and decided to pick it up and work on it. So, look what we have. Whoa! So, this is a blanket that I started well before baby Tam was born. And it's based off of a pattern. I don't remember the designer's name. It's been such a long time since I looked at it. It's supposed to be like a tote bag, but I realized that it would be very, very easy to translate it to a blanket. And it's basically just a bunch of these squares that then have like mushrooms sewed onto them. And I was just like, oh, that would be so, so cute as a little baby blanket. And I worked on it. I made a ton of squares and tried a few different methods of seaming them together and was not liking it at all. Hey, you want the square? He loves the feeling of like yarn fabric, like crocheted or knitted things. So when I was trying to like work on this blanket, he would come over and try and like yank on it. Yeah, what is that? So I'll just give him like the extra squares. Anyway, it has been sitting sad and unloved for a very long time. And I picked it up and was just like, okay, let's just try and get some of these squares put together. And the way that I ended up putting them together is I'm doing a single crochet along them. And one of the reasons why it was taking me so long to do it was when I would get to the corners, I was trying to go through both legs of that chain on both of the squares, and it was just a pain. And so I hated that part of it. It was just so annoying. Hey, it's grabbing all my tails. So what I ended up deciding to do is I just take my crochet hook and go right through that hole rather than trying to catch a specific yarn chain. Here's all my ends on the back. I completely usually when I'm doing crocheting, I like to, as much as possible, crochet over my ends, so I have very few ends to weave in. But for a large portion of these squares, I completely forgot about that, so I have a few extra ends that I'll have to weave in. But that's fine. I don't mind. Whatever. So there's the back. there's the front. I've run out of squares. I think I'm going to do, right now it's 5 by 7, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet enough to do 6 by 8, so it's just a little bit bigger. And then I'm debating whether or not I want to mess with making a bunch of mushrooms, or if I want to just use the yarn that I was planning to use for the mushrooms as like a border around the outside. What I think will probably happen is I will do a few mushrooms kind of sporadically put onto the blanket. I'm definitely not doing a mushroom for every single, no. I'll probably do a few kind of scattered throughout the blanket, and then probably use the leftover yarn for a border. And this yarn is the Hobby Lobby. I love this cotton yarn. It's just 100% cotton. I really, really like this. I am definitely going to be making more blankets out of this yarn because it's really nice. Like, it's quite soft, and it's like, it has a really nice weight to it. It's just, working on this and kind of falling back in love with it has made me want to crochet some more blankets. So stay tuned. I'm thinking like a beachy blues and tans and like creamy whites, maybe, possibly. Hi. I am really starting to embrace my whole, like, how much I love like blue and white. And I've been thinking about that a lot as to how I can translate that over to, like, hey buddy, you want to play with this? You can play with this. It's got all kinds of things to pull on. How I can translate my love of, like, blue and white to, like, my wardrobe and my house, and yeah. My mom she sent me some pictures of these beautiful art prints from, or pieces of art from Hobby Lobby, and she was asking my opinion on which one I thought she should get. And there was one that had these sailboats on it, and I was just like, sailboats, absolutely, 100%. I love sailboats, and that reminded me just like how much I love sailboats. So now I'm kind of like looking at different like art prints, or I was looking on Etsy for sailboat cross-stitch patterns, and I found a couple that I'm very tempted by. Maybe I'll put a picture up here and show you because it just looks so cute. And I would love to do some more cross stitch. And a couple people that I've been following, Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits, I think she just was talking about a cross stitch kit that she got. And then Holly of Mystery Mouse Knitting, I was watching her podcast and she was talking about some cross stitching stuff. And I've been thinking about doing some cross stitching. And so it's just been kind of making me want to do more cross stitching. Anyway, we're going down all kinds of tangents and bunny trails today. Let's go ahead and move on to some yarny acquisitions. Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits is a really bad influence, and you should definitely go follow her. She posted on Instagram that Hobby Lobby was clearancing out their Patons Kroy yarn, and I went that day to try and see if my local Hobby Lobby was clearancing this stuff, and it wasn't on clearance sale just yet, and so I waited a few days and then went back, and got myself some Patons Kroy. So they had clearanced it down from $9 to $2.24. So this, I was telling my husband, this bag of yarn would have been well over $100 before, and I got 12 skeins for, I think, $30. I think that's what it was. It was like just over $30. So let me just show you some of the colorways that I got. Let's see, I got this one. This is Northern Lights, which is just a beautiful, beautiful color. I really like that one. I got Adrift, which I also really like this one with the tan. Again, like my whole like beachy ocean thing, like the tans. I mean, this is more of a rusty brown, but the blues and the grays and the teals, these are my vibes. And then this is the colorway that really, really made me want to go back, because I have been eyeing this at Hobby Lobby for a while, ever since it was released, and I really wanted to get it, but I was just like, $9 a ball is more than I can reasonably afford. So I got 2 skeins of this one, which is called the Midnight Orchid, and it's just beautiful. I really like it. And Stephanie and I are actually talking back and forth about doing like a little bit of a mini knit along and knitting some socks out of these, one of these in the next couple of months, which will be really fun. I'm very excited about it. I think what I'm going to do is probably knit one of my, I've bought several patterns by Olivia of This Handmade Life, and I think I've yet to knit. I think I've knit one of her patterns before, and I've bought a bunch of her patterns, and I love her patterns. I just need to knit them more. I need to be more intentional. I just half the time just knit vanilla socks, but I need to be more intentional about knitting the beautiful socks that I have, sock patterns that I have purchased from her. So that's kind of my plan with this is, and I got two because normally I only got one of these other two because I can get a pair of shorty socks out of 50 grams. He found a box, he's found the trash. But I wanted to do a little bit longer socks with these, so I got extra. And then I also grabbed this, which is the Plum colorway, as a contrast for this one and potentially a contrast for this one. If I feel like it just goes really well with both these colors. Yeah. So we'll see what I end up deciding to do. I have found with Patons Kroy, because it's a much thicker fingering weight, I would classify this as a sport weight. But I have found that I sometimes have a little bit of difficulty getting a full pair of shorty socks out of just one. So that's why I went ahead and grabbed this extra so that I could finish it off. And then I got 7 balls of this Saltwater colorway, which is just this beautiful, beautiful blue. It is fucking, I love this so much. I've already gone ahead and I did a little bit of swatching because I've been agonizing and going over trying to figure out what pattern I want to use because I want to make a sweater out of it. Can't remember if I just said that or not. And there were only 7 balls left, so I'm a little bit limited on my yardage, but I did some swatching and I figured out that this actually matches the gauge for the Simper sweater by Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl, and it's a lovely basic classic raglan sweater, and so I think that's what I'm going to use this for. And I will probably have to just do like shorter sleeves, which I'm totally fine with. I'm absolutely fine with that because with babies and stuff, like sometimes it's easier to have your sleeves be a little bit shorter. So I'm okay if it ends up being like 3/4 length sleeves. So I got all of those. I'm half tempted to go back and get a few more just because they're so, I really like working with Patons Kroy yarn, and usually, again, it's so expensive. It's just insane. But it's a really, really nice yarn. And then while I was there, I, of course, was looking around at the other, whenever they put a bunch of stuff on clearance, I'll just kind of walk through the store in like the different like scrapbooking or sewing or knitting sections just to see if there's anything that I've been wanting to get that is now being clearanced out. And I saw that they had these Knitter's Pride bamboo needles, the interchangeable tips, and this was on clearance for 87 cents. So I grabbed this. I was gifted a, hey, he likes to get my sewing machine cord. This room has become kind of dangerous for him to be in. Come back over here. Come back over here. Play with your toys that are right over here. Look it. Anyway, I was gifted this interchangeable knitting needle set a few years ago, back when I lived in Virginia. I went to a knit night group for a while. Well, it wasn't. The reason I went was because it was not a knit night. It was a knit morning, which I loved. Why are there not more knit morning groups? It's always in the evenings, and it's something I was talking about with my husband, that my local yarn store, they have a knit night, but I have a baby. I can't go, I'm not going to go somewhere from like 5 to 7 at night. I have a baby to watch and take care of. But there are like no knit morning times. Anyway, it was a wonderful group of wonderful ladies, and one of the ladies had recently upgraded. I think she got like a gotta keep an eye on him. Chiagu or Ha Sharp interchangeable knitting needle set, so she didn't need this set anymore, so she gifted it to me, which has been amazing. And I don't know exactly. He's back over the cords again. Hey, you! Ugh. What are you doing? I don't know exactly what brand these are, but I'm pretty sure that these are either Knit Picks or Knit Pro needles. And so I've seen stuff online that say that Knitter's Pride and Knit Picks are, because there's some like Knit Picks things in here. I don't know. They said that they're interchangeable. You can use the that's funny. The interchangeable knitting needle tips for one will match up with the cords for the other. So I was like, it's 87 cents. I can give it a try. And then if I know that this brand works with my cords, that'll be really helpful. So that is that. That is all of the knitting yarny content that I have. I have some other yarn that's supposed to be coming in the mail, but it's not here yet, so I'll talk about it on the next podcast episode. Which leads me to a little bit of book talk. I have a couple of books that I wanted to recommend. I have recently been on, again, a rereading kick. I love rereading books so much. I have been reading some books by Robin Mckinley, who has written several fairy tale retellings and fairy tale style stories, and I have very much enjoyed all of them. She does have some books that are I haven't read them. I have just heard that they have some questionable content in them, and so I have stuck with her amazing fairy tale retellings. And I have been rereading, I reread Beauty and Rose Daughter, which are both Beauty and the Beast retellings, and they're both really good. I very much enjoy both of them. One year for Christmas, my mom got me and my two sisters Robin Mckinley books. She got my older sister Beauty. She got me Spindle's Inn, which is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and then my younger sister, one of my younger sisters, she got Rose Daughter, which is another Beauty and the Beast retelling, because my younger sister and my older sister both very, very much love Beauty and the Beast, particularly my younger sister. Hopefully him squeaking on this is not too bad. But I've kind of been in a little bit of a reading slump the last bit. I've only read like 3 or 4 books in the entire month of March so far, and so I decided to reread these books because I just felt in the mood for it. So I read Beauty and I read Rose Daughter, and they're lovely. They're very, very different Beauty and the Beast retellings. They were actually written 20 years apart. She wrote Beauty first, and then 20 years later she wrote Rose Daughter. They're really good. If you enjoy the Beauty and the Beast story, I highly recommend them. They're just really wholesome, lovely fairy tales. Like, that's what it is. And then Robin Mckinley, she also has a couple other books. She has Chalice, which is another sort of fairy tale style story. It's really good. It's really hard to describe without it being very confusing. So I will just leave it up to you if you want to look at it, but it's about a young girl and some different struggles and things. It's got a lot of stuff about honeybees and honey, and it's really lovely. You know, there's like fire priest things, and it's really hard to describe. I actually filmed this podcast episode a few days ago, and I was trying to describe how Chalice worked, and I was just like, oh, this gets more confusing the more you try to explain it. So I'll have a link to it down below and you can read the synopsis or whatever, but I've read that book so many times. I really enjoy it. And then she also has, Robin Mckinley wrote The Hero, is it The Hero's Crown? Or is it The Hero and the Crown? I don't remember. She has a couple that they're sort of sequels, but they're like years and years apart from each other. And they're kind of fairy tale. Again, they have like dragons in one of them. They're just they're really nice and really enjoyable. She has a few other ones. Pegasus, if I remember correctly, ends on a terrible cliffhanger, and there's not a second book, which drove me nuts. It's a really sweet story because it's about like flying horses, and they get paired up with humans as like their companions or whatever. It's a really nice story, but it made me angry because it ended on such a cliffhanger. And then I think, let me see, I started reading Dragon Haven, but it was a bit too like modern day, and there was like swearing and stuff in it, and I was just like, ugh. I was expecting a nice fairy tale about dragons, and this is like some boy sitting there cussing at stuff, and just, no thank you. So I haven't read that one. I think I read The Outlaws of Sherwood, which is like a Robin Hood retelling. I don't remember having strong feelings about it one way or the other. I was kind of meh. But again, I've only read it once, so I don't remember for sure. And it was a while ago. And then she has other books, like, I don't even remember what they're called, that I have not read because questionable content. So, yeah. But I highly, highly, highly recommend like her fairy tale retelling style books. They're so good. Like Spindle's End is one of my favorite books of all time. It has one of my favorite characters. I love it in stories when they almost personify houses. I love that so much, where they'll have like a name and they almost are like alive in a way. They give the house its own like character in the story. Spindle's End has that, and it's one of my favorite representations of that, where they make a house like a character. So anyway, I'm not going to keep blathering on about that, but highly, highly recommend it. They're excellent for young girls to read. That was the thing, like we were all, you know, middle grade, young teenagers, and my mom got them for us. They're clean, wholesome, nothing like, violent, crude, or bad in them. So if you've been trying to find some more good literature for yourself or for your children to read, probably more so towards girls, because they are like, they're fairy tale romances. Like, if you know the traditional fairy tales of like Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast, like, they're romantic fairy tales. So I don't know that boys would enjoy them that much. But they're very, very good. Anyway, that is all that I have to say about that. As far as life update, nothing too much. Yeah, he's been growing and learning. He's trying to pull himself up on things. He loves to eat shoelaces and shoes. Hey. He started getting much more vocal and like making squawky sounds. He's being so quiet, probably because I'm talking. Making like all kinds of squawky noises. He's got his tooth, so he's drooling everywhere and chewing on everything. With this? Yeah. He's been doing this nose crinkle thing where he'll be like, which is the cutest thing ever. It's so funny. Yeah. Nothing much else going on. Lots of work. Mike has been working like crazy. Yawn. That's why you should have napped longer. I've been trying to squeeze in some knitting where I can. Yeah, we're just keeping busy. We had a lovely bit of like beautiful weather where I was outside as much as I possibly could. It's been good. It's busy, typical, normal homemaker, stay-at-home mom, young parents with a baby sort of life. Nothing too much going on. My husband's been playing, every now and then he'll find a video game that he can play that I really enjoy watching him play. And so, not last year, I think it was the year before, he played through Octopath Traveler, which I'll put a link to the YouTube video with the soundtrack down below. The soundtrack is amazing. It is phenomenal. And then they recently released, at the end of February, they released Octopath Traveler 2, so he's been playing some of that, and I've been watching him. We'll sit on the couch, and little man will go crawling all over the place, chewing on shoes and stuff, and one of us will, like, jump up and grab him before he does anything too dangerous. So we've been doing that. Yeah, not much else. Just simple lifestyle. My dream lifestyle. So, I'm going to go ahead and end things here. I think we're probably between the 30 to 45 minute mark, which is right where I want to be. So we're going to end things here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please feel free to like and subscribe. Yeah, I would love to have more lovely, cozy, wholesome, creative knitting people. I hope that you're all doing really well, that you've been staying healthy, that the weather wherever you are is, you know, good, not too bad, that you're enjoying these last bits of winter and the beginnings of spring, or if you're in Australia, that you're enjoying the last bits of summer and fall and ready for winter. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for supporting my channel and watching all the way through. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!